like to call the regular scheduled meeting of April 7th for Council 2026 to order. No public hearings are scheduled for today. Any additions or deletions to the agenda from administration?
Mr. Mayor, members of the Council, administration has no additions or deletions for tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Anything from Council?
There is an error
Uh-oh.
in 11.3. Instead of joint, it is, instead of joint use, it's join use.
Oh, in the RFD?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's fine. The agenda itself is fine? Looking for a motion from Council to accept the agenda.
I'll accept the agenda, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. No public input or delegations tonight, no presentations, so we're looking at agenda item 8.1, the March 17th regular council meeting. Councilor Olson?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from the March 17th regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Yes?
Just under reports, it doesn't say carried unanimously.
Okay.
Does it?
And you would be happy with that amendment, Councilor Olson?
I guess so, Your Worship.
Anything else? Any other errors or omissions? Not seeing anything, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. The March 23rd, 2026 special council meeting minutes. Councilor
I'll make
Smith?
that motion.
Thank you. Errors or omissions? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? It's carried. March 24th, Committee of the Whole meeting. Councilor Cosby?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of the committee of the whole.
Thank you. I noticed on this one that there's no adjournment motion. It's blank. My memory suggests it was Councilor Olson, but
That's
I'm not.
correct, Your Worship.
That's the best I could do was my memory, so. If someone would like to move with the, with the amendment to include that, thank you. And discussion? Seeing none, I'll call that question. Oh, hang on.
That's sorry. I was already raising my hand.
You were already
Just
voting?
excited, yeah.
All in favor? And that's carried, thank you. It's hard sometimes getting all the i's dotted, t's crossed when business arising out of the minutes or unfinished business. Mr. Van Buell, 9.1, the RCMP policing priorities.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could, just before I go to 9.1, there was two other things actually coming out of
Please.
questions from previous council meetings. The first is the meeting on Thursday night, April 9th with Rose Ridge. Confirmed I was incorrect originally. It is just for the CAO, for administration and the board member. However, when I spoke with Susan at Rose Ridge, she says, any counselors want to attend, they're certainly, they won't get kicked out of the room. So, not mandatory, probably won't be a lot of participation from other counselors, but if any of the counselors want to attend, it is at 6:30 on Thursday evening at the Gibbons Cultural Center. So, 6:30. I have 6:30.
I got 6:30 here too. What do you got?
I don't know.
We will confirm with council whether it's 6 or 6:30.
I know it's on our council calendar, so.
6:30.
I thought it was from 6 till 7 and then we go into our regular meeting. But whatever, I'll show up. Don't matter.
So that's the first one. The second one, there was a question on the financial statements from the COW meeting about a revenue at the pool. And Ms. Tingley and I had we talked about after, and it is the transfer of the,
It's the Sturgeon grant.
yeah, it's the Sturgeon
Sturgeon
grant.
grant,
It's
yeah.
the Sturgeon grant that gets allocated to the pool, and we do that right at the beginning of the year. So that's why it's showing as some revenue at the pool already.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Proper answer, because I was sure we had some problem with ice fisher people at the pool.
So, anyway, so that answers the two questions from previous minutes, or previous meetings. So, on to 9.1, the policing priorities. Again, the purpose of this is to obtain council approval of the 2026-27 Redwater RCMP policing priority and to authorize the mayor to sign the engagement confirmation. The proposed motion is that council approve the 2026-27 Redwater RCMP policing priorities as presented, and again, authorize the mayor to sign the engagement confirmation on behalf of the town. So again, back in January of 2026, town received correspondence from the RCMP about the community priorities plan. And it's a little bit of a different process as we're aware this year. So the RCMP started the process with a presentation to council. We then had some public engagement, as well as we did a bit of a town hall through the Coffee with a Cop program back in March. We presented those engagement priorities at the last Cal meeting, which council had administration forward to the RCMP. So the three that we've put on the table, and I can confirm that they're all in the priorities to some degree. There is, because the RCMP detachment is dealing with a number of different municipalities, they have to play that balancing act and get everybody's priorities on the plate. When I was speaking with Sergeant Dean today in our monthly meeting, he indicated that there is one additional priority that he's kind of filled in, and that's I believe he called it persons crime. So this is assaults, domestic disputes, those kinds of things. And it came from one of the municipalities, and it's been worked into the priorities under, I forget which area, but it has been worked into the priorities. So that was one that we hadn't specifically pointed out, but it is in the engagement piece. So for us, again, crime reduction, that visibility in communities, and again, reduce persons crime. And there was that one piece around, physical violence on it.
Domestic violence.
So,
Okay.
with that, I'd answer any questions the council might have.
Oh my goodness, Councillor Olson, you were first.
I make the motion that council approve the 2026-2027 Redwater RCMP policing priorities as presented and authorize the mayor to sign the engagement confirmation on behalf of the town.
Thank you. Discussion by council.
Number 3. Persons crimes.
My question to council is, this was a new process for the RCMP. Usually we get what's called the annual performance plan, which was them coming to us and telling us what they thought was important and us kind of confirming it. This way we had a little bit more of an input. So my question to council is, how did you find this procedure? It was new, it was quick, but what's your take on that? Councillor Butcher.
I think it's a good collaboration with municipalities and surrounding us and for ourselves. It gives the RCMP kind of a helping hand when council is behind this. So I'm all for it.
Councillor Smith.
You know, excuse me, for the most part, I thought it was really good. I think the questions that went out to the public needed a different forum. I think we had to allow our seniors to access it a little more and participate a little more. But I think when the intent was so good.
Go ahead, Councillor
Well, I
Spicer.
think next year they're planning to have more public content, and we're trying to get out to it faster a little bit, which I think is great benefit. The more that we can get the police and our community making contact at, I think it's just better.
I just don't think that little icon on the corner is the way to go for seniors.
That's called a QR code there, Mr. Smith.
Anything else from council on that? I second what your comments, Councillor Smith. The response percentage for the survey was unfortunately low, really low, and we could have seen a better process there. But I think overall the process actually provides better information to the police than us just sitting here and asking the question, so what do we want you to do next year? I think this was more informative and better suited to their needs. Okay. Anything else from administration?
No, Mr. Mayor, again, echo what council has said. Bit of a rushed process this year. Nobody's fault, but everybody's problem, I guess, in the end. And certainly, Sergeant Dehan and myself have talked about how we can get on top of this earlier in the new year so that we give not just better access, but more varied access. I think there's a number of different things that we can use to get people involved and get that word out. And we'll work on that over the course of the last quarter of 2026 so that we hit the ground running early in January of 2027.
Go ahead, Councillor Olson.
It would be nice to hear from Sturgeon and Jennifer to find out what their total numbers were for their live view type thing. Because, I mean, when we found out we were the highest attendance, Redwater was, and over half of the people in the facility were residents, town residents, you know, so.
And throw that whole picture on the, out there. Sturgeon ran a video or
Yeah,
a
like a-
visual process as well as a number of
I think they had 4 or 5 watch stations, they called them.
stations, that's right.
Yeah, and it was like a Zoom, YouTube type thing, live thing where they had their 3 detachment commanders up. And same thing we had with Sergeant Day, you know, but it was a live thing so they can cover the whole county. But I mean, I think there was 14 in attendance here at the Legion.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were number 1 in attendance apparently.
8 or 9 of those were local and
Yeah.
6 or 7 of those were citizens on patrol members. So it was a slanted cross-section. But I think the key to that, if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Olson, was the fact that we had, with Sturgeon County, they encounter 3 detachments in their area, whereas here, we have 2 areas in 1 detachment. So it's a bit of a cross-purpose type thing. But I agree with you. I think it was, that event was really good, and it would be good to get Jennifer's input. Okay. Jennifer being the
Can't remember what her
prevention
title was.
officer for Sturgeon County. She's a civilian employee that does their crime prevention programming and stuff, so.
You won't be back till April 20th.
So, anything further from council? Motion's on the table, I'll call that question, all in favor? And that's carried. Agenda item number 10, bylaws, land use bylaw. I think we're in your hands again, Mr. Van Buell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the purpose of this RFD is to amend land use bylaw PD 02-2025. So this was the amendment to the land use bylaw, the consolidation of the bylaw that we did back in December of 2025. We now have a few more, actually been a busy first quarter for planning and development with requests coming in both on the rezoning and for some changes to accommodate development as we move forward. So, without reading this to you, it's kind of I'll use the term omnibus bylaw. It's got a number of different pieces to it. The first is to include a provision in all districts that accessory buildings must conform to Part 4.2 of the accessory building. So it was kind of an oversight where accessory buildings didn't really, there was a section of it in 4.2, but they weren't specifically referred back to in the different districts. So what you see is the requirements under section 4.2. All accessory buildings will meet the requirements under section 4.2 as follows. So 2.23A part 5, 2.33A part 5, 2.43A part 5, 2.53A part 4, 2.63A part 3, 2.73A 5, 2.83A2, 2.93A3, 2.103A3, 11, 12, and 13, 3A3 as well. So in addition to that, there's add sections 2.14, 2.15, and 2.16, 3A1 with the wording, again, all accessory buildings will meet the requirements under section 4.2. Again, this was just an oversight in all of the districts. What I've done here is laid it all out, exactly which ones are being added. The second one is 2.A under permitted and 2.82, permitted and discretionary uses. This is add care facility major as a permitted use in the downtown commercial district. This was the piece that we talked about at the meeting, I believe, the town meeting in March. Then on 2.82, there's also under the downtown commercial district, and that's removed dwelling single detached as a discretionary use. So this causes us problems with transitioning our downtown commercial out of residential areas where it's still a discretionary use. So you can still have people remodeling at the discretion of. So the proposal here is to finish that transition into our downtown core by removing the single detached dwelling as a discretionary use. And on 2.92 in CGen, which is remove storage recreational as a permitted use. Again, storage of recreational facility or recreational vehicles downtown is probably not what you want to see as a permitted use in our downtown. 2.11.2 in the IDIP to add manufacturing sales as a permitted use, and with that we've added a definition of manufacturing and sales. 2.14, add intermodal shipping container as a discretionary use. So this is in the recreational district. We had that discussion with council. There has been a request from one of our community groups to have intermodal shipping container storage in the recreational area. So that's the one. And then under Part 3 in general regulations, there's 3.4 delete, 3.46 and 3.47. And this was an oversight from the previous bylaw consolidation where we didn't quite grab all of the deletions. So under Part 4, specific uses and activities, 4.29 to add the following provisions, and I won't read them all off. It just in relation to accessory buildings and residential, commercial, industrial, and institutional districts shall be located. And again, it goes into the specifics of where and when accessory buildings can be done. Under Part 7, definitions, again, include definition for manufacturing and sales, and I will read this out. Manufacturing and sales means the process of making and selling goods or products from raw materials using labor, machines, tools, and chemical or mechanical processes. So this is taking raw goods and making it into a product, and not just the manufacturing, but being able to have sales off of that site as well. And then in addition to the text amendments listed above, there are two proposed rezoning amendments. And again, as previously mentioned in the report, These rezoning requests will facilitate future development and enhance the landowner's ability to accelerate development on a go-forward basis. So Schedule A, the first one would be Schedule A rezoning, 4701 46th Street, Lot 9, Block 18, Plan 8722030, to rezone 3.29 acres from our residential high density to general commercial district. And that is, I think council did get a presentation from an individual who wanted to do some commercial development on that site, and this will help speed that up. The second one is reschedule zoning on 5020 50th Street, Lot 2 and 3, Block 19, Plan 1473 HW. Excuse me, to rezone 10,375 square feet from residential medium density to residential low density. This is to facilitate the construction of a single-family dwelling unit on that site. Again, the proposed land use bylaw amendments were presented to Municipal Planning Commission, with the exception of the care facility major, which we talked about at a council meeting. And as we were going through the bylaw, we noticed the Part 3 general regulations deleting 3.46 and 3.47 as an amendment. So those were the two things that were not talked about at MPC, but the adding of the care facility major was spoken about at the committee. And again, Part 3, the general regulations, were caught by administration as we were going through the details of the bylaw. I think I've kind of highlighted why we've done why all the additions and deletions have been there. There's two proposed motions. One, move that council give first reading to land use bylaw PD 01-2026 as presented. And again, we've presented a marked up version of the bylaw for council. And then the second motion is that council set the public hearing on bylaw PD 01-2026 for April 28th at 6 p.m. in council chambers, and that is the regular CAL meeting. In the report, I did offer an alternative to go to a different day if council was concerned about the potential of the public hearing going longer with the timing of the CAL meeting. If that were to happen, if council was to approve administration's recommendation, the backup plan would be we could move some of the whatever we didn't get done on the agenda on the 28th into the council meeting and deal with it at the following Tuesday. So with that, I'd answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
I'll move that council give first reading to the land use bylaw PD 01-2026 as presented.
Discussion by council. Councillor Cosby.
I'd just like to make note, I'm not sure what happened to our land use bylaw, but under the accessory buildings, after 9, we moved to 10, and 10 is talking about natural resource extractions. So 10, 11, 12, 13, as well as 14 is a whole chunk that's meant for natural resources, which now apparently falls under accessory buildings. I really don't know when that happened, when it got mixed up, but we've done a lot of amendments. And maybe some copying and pasting and something got mixed up, but I don't even see natural resources anymore in the table of contents, so something happened there.
Something happened.
Yeah, so there's a whole section here under accessory buildings from 10 to 14 that pertains to natural resources and has nothing to do with accessory buildings, so.
So all of those sections should be districts.
This is under the new, under 4 under specific uses and activities. So natural resources would be a specific use. And yes, it should fall in here somewhere.
Okay.
But somehow it's now mixed itself in with accessory buildings. So I don't know what happened to our natural resource section under here in our land use bylaw. I know we had it at one time.
Okay, so don't have the answer off the top of my head.
Yeah, but something happened, so that, I mean, that's
So,
definitely gonna
We
need.
have, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think we have two options, and council can table this, and we can sort that out. Or we can go ahead with, first reading, knowing that we'd have to do an amendment, at second reading, if we can't sort that out. If we do table it, then we'd have to pick another date for, because we wouldn't make the public hearing date. Council's discretion. And Councillor Cosby, I went through this on Thursday, I didn't even catch that, I don't know. So it's just, so what you're saying is that went away in one of the versions of,
It had to have, because I'm positive we had a little section with natural resource extraction, just in case.
I mean, I can go back and do some,
But it's been eliminated somewhere.
Go ahead, Ms. DeWitt.
Just the header that might have been deleted, we can double check that.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I think it's just the header.
But it's missing on the table of contents as well. Like you'd think it would still be in the table of contents.
But if you deleted the header from the document,
Yeah,
then
because you're right, yes, yeah,
okay,
I get it.
so we can,
Yeah, so you might just need to add just the,
it might be just a text issue, right?
like it wasn't a big issue, but I went, why are we going with this? We're missing something here.
If council's okay, what I'll do is I'll do the research on it, and then at the public hearing, we can address that, so that it's in the context, and then we can do an amendment, whatever amendment might be required at second reading.
Yeah.
I remember it being in there, so
Yeah, it just disappeared.
and again,
But you're right, if they're
Because-
connected and you
because we
delete
weren't
a
touching
header.
any of the,
Yeah.
that, I wasn't even looking at that, I was focused on the sections and trying to make sure that this
No, I get it.
didn't
I get
become a,
it.
Because 4.2 subsection 9 is a whole section that was put in there with respect to what accessory buildings are. And that's clear as day, that's where it is, and then as you say, right
Number 10.
underneath it, all of a sudden, we're developing sand, so, okay. What's council's druthers? Would you prepare to go through with first reading and then look at amendments at second reading? As long as we present it at the public hearing, or your motion?
Personally, I think that would be the wise thing to do instead of trying to drag it out and determine another date.
Yeah, 100%.
And as presented by Ms. DeWitt, I honestly feel this is strictly a numbering, heading type of a scenario. It's not something that's germane to the entire integrity of the bylaws, so. Anything else from council? Your motion still stands then, Councillor Smith. I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried, and administration will put together that package for the public hearing.
public hearing.
Okay. And then I believe we have a second motion. Councillor Cosby?
The council set the public hearing on bylaw PD-01-2026 for April 28th at 6 PM in council chambers.
Discussion by council. Mr. Van Buell pointed out this is technically a cow meeting date. It'll allow us to do both to a certain degree. The public hearing will take precedence and run until its natural end. And then depending on what time is left over, that will allow us to do at least some of the cow. And then we would adjourn the cow to the next scheduled meeting of council and squish it together there. Is that correct, Mr. Van Buell?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's correct. I mean, public hearings are, we don't know how long they can take. Sometimes they take 15 minutes, sometimes they take 5 hours. And we won't know until we do the advertisement and we see what kind of public response there is to the proposed amendments to the bylaw.
Okay. And is council satisfied with the public hearing here in chambers? We don't have a lot of room, we do have some, but if there's a pre-registration package, which there normally is for public hearings, and we start to see we're squishing, what would council's options be? Could we have a special meeting resolution to move the location?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's two issues there, still having to get the required advertisements in. So that, if we did move the location after, it would require us to re-advertise, which would push the date back. The other and probably bigger issue is all of our public hearings now under, I believe it was Bill 50,
Yes.
you must be able to participate remotely in a public hearing. Taking a public hearing out of council chambers creates us some technical difficulties. If we got a lot of response, not only if we had a lot of response where people wanted to, we can certainly plug them in online, because not only do you have to show it online, you have to have the ability for people to participate in the public hearing online. So that's the key to that, so.
All right. Councillor Smith?
So, would that rule out live barn? Can you have participation both ways in live barn?
Not through Live Barn, but we would, like, what we'll do is we'll create a link, like, for the public hearing, we'll create a link for people to sign in on Teams. And then they can have the ability to speak on Teams, they can have, like, so that'll be our public
And
portal for the ability to participate.
I know Community Services was working on a two-way stream out of the cultural center, but it had worked well during testing, and then they had troubles with it during implementation. So something like a public hearing, you've got to have it, which we do have here.
Yeah, because if there's any technical difficulties with the public participation, then we'll have to pause the public hearing, set a new date. Now, again, because there's technical difficulties, you don't have to re-advertise, because you can just go into recess and come in an hour later or a day later, doesn't matter.
And I think Councillor Olson, that was what happened to you that one time with sound, was it not?
Yes.
We had a problem with sound, and we had to do that exact same thing, so, okay.
That was when we found out that came down to Miranda's phone.
All right, so the motion is that the public hearing will be here on April 28th at 6 o'clock. Anything else from council? Not seeing anything, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. New business. We have reserve allocations, and I believe, Ms. Tingley, we're in your hands.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So it's an annual RFD that is in the meeting prior to the audited financial statement presentation, which is on April 21st. So the purpose of the RFD is to discuss and provide recommendations for reserve allocations based on 2025 budgeted reserve transfers and the draft operating surplus balance. So we are nearing the finish line of our 2025 financial statement audit, which is really exciting. So we have two motions proposed at this time. The first motion outlines the budgeted reserve transfers you'll see in Schedule 1. These are transfers that you approved in the budget on December 16th of 2025. There are amounts that are actuals that were budgeted, such as the $35,000 transfer to operating to cover future technology upgrades, the $100,000 transfer to sidewalks for the capital reserve, and the $100,000 transfer to Pembina Place for the per the recreation agreement. And then there's the actual balances. So we had a placeholder in the budget for a dollar amount based on previous years. So the amounts shown in this proposed motion and in the attached schedules are the actuals based on our pre-audited financials. So a couple of those, the transfer of rental income less the expenses incurred for the lease building, so the $93.50. The $15,345 that was transferred to Economic Development Reserve for the business license revenue that was collected during the year for the downtown revitalization grant. and like 206,363 that was transferred to gas, the general utility reserve for the 2025 UCI amounts, and additional garbage dividend. In addition to proposed motion 1, I have some unbudgeted reserve transfers for your consideration in the second motion. So the first one is a $40,000 transfer to council reserve. Due to a change in council compensation mid-year in 2025 and a reduced cost of the FCM conference compared to budget, as not all councillors attended, in addition to just small variances here and there, there was a surplus in council that administration recommends transferring to a reserve account, a council reserve account, with the intent to cover future election costs and other council expenditures. As we all know, we are looking at a by-election coming up, so this would be beneficial. And we do have the reserve set up, the annual transfer each year to cover future election costs. So this could be part of our discussion to just like just a future conversation for reserve strategies when we reach that point, either late this summer or early fall. So the second one is $50,000 transfer to water and sewer reserve. So if you'll recall, during our budget deliberations, we had a $25,000 expense item that we budgeted for specifically for main breaks. And starting in 2025 and then in 26, we were funding that out of the water and sewer reserve to offset the cost. So the actual, if there were significant main breaks during 2025, we would be transferring out of reserves to fund that from operating. But fortunately, we didn't have any significant main breaks during 2025. However, it's not an if, it's a when it comes to significant infrastructure breaks. So our administration's recommendation is due to this luck in 2025, we now go the opposite way and we take the $50,000 surplus in water and sewer and we transfer it to our utility accounts to earmark for these critical infrastructure breaks. And the last one is a $25,000 transfer to the pool reserve. So the 2025 operating budget included pool repairs and chemical costs based on prior year actuals. So we noticed a significant decrease in both of these costs in 25 compared to 2024. A bunch of contributing factors. We had a lot of repairs in 2024. Sure, Garnet would do a much better job of speaking to this. We just had, I guess, less rain, less leakage in the the actual pool basin. So we just incurred less costs overall, which was really great. But we know that the pool is something that's going to be a significant cost going forward. So because of this decrease in expenses, we can take that surplus within that department and we can transfer it to the pool reserve for future expenditures for the pool.
Can I help you out with that one?
Oh, yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, so basically what happened was, as you're aware, the 3 previous years, we had major issues in getting tiling done, getting our scoopers and our overflows functioning to the point where we could open the pool. So we had three consecutive years where we spent significant amounts of dollars. So, and they were all unbudgeted at that time. So in 2025, we said, you know what, we got to budget a certain amount of money for this. And lo and behold, it weathered very well in the spring. So we didn't have as many repairs in the spring of 2025 to get the pool open as we had in future years. So that's the non-technical jargon of what happened there. We continue to budget this because, as Ms. Tingley said, how outdoor pools weather over the winter is strictly up to Mother Nature and what happens. Given the winter we're having, what that looks like on a go-forward basis is, quite frankly, anybody's guess. Like everybody else, and I'll throw this out there, if we keep getting this weather, the May long weekend as an opening date is quickly coming in jeopardy, because if we do have any repairs, normally we're in there right now already, pumping out the pool and getting it ready. We're probably 2 weeks away from doing that. So if there's any major repairs, 2 weeks from now is going to be the end of April. we're getting at that point where a May long weekend with any, we have to do any repairs is starting to become in question.
Thank you. And just to back it up a little bit to, just in respect to how this process flows. So during budget, you approve the reserve transfers, whether it be transferred to reserve or to fund operating or capital expenditures. So after the year end and prior to MNP receiving the trial balance, I make adjustments to take from the reserve to fund capital and operating as per budget. And then the reserve transfers that come out of operating and into reserve wait until we have, we're close to the finish line for a operating surplus, just to ensure that there's nothing maybe that the auditors picked up on, or something in like the schedule of unadjusted differences that we should account for, and so on. So we're getting close to that point. We don't have a confirmed balance of the operating surplus at this time, but based on our review and discussion with the auditors, that's how we arrived at this motion too, for your review. And as you are aware, budgets are continually getting tighter and tighter each year, so it makes it challenging to manage unforeseen events such as infrastructure breaks or significant weather events, as we are experiencing this year. So it just continues to pose a difficulty in future years as infrastructure continues to age and require additional maintenance to support current service levels. So it's just important to continue to support our current reserve initiatives. We really utilize them in 2025. We're going to continue to utilize them in 26. So we just want to make sure that in years that we don't see these critical breaks, we're not having to do as many significant repairs, that we replenish the reserves to take from like the buckets that we keep, so that it's it also helps with transparency to the taxpayers as well. And that concludes my RFD.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could-
Go ahead,
sorry,
Mr. Van
just
Buren.
a couple comments. If we go back to our budgets, one of the things that Ms. Tingley has very appropriately pointed out through our budget deliberations is how in the last couple of years we've been depleting our reserves in different areas and what's been going on there. And I have to compliment Ms. Tingley for saying, like, we've been depleting those reserves, and when we don't spend the money on the repairs that we've anticipated, we need to be putting that money back into those reserves so that, again, not if, but when we have those repairs, we're not stuck going, how are we gonna pay for this? We've got that money put away, and we're able to maintain our infrastructure, whether it be wholesale replacement or those repairs as they come up.
Councilor Olson, your hand was up there.
To make the motion that the budget reserve transfers as shown on attached Scheduled 1B moved to the following restricted reserves: administration, $35,000, lease building, $93.50, fire, $18,825, streets, $115,639, water and sewer, $122,014, cemetery, $800, economic development, $15,345, Pamela Place, $110,000, gas, $206,363, and for a total of $662,012.
Thank you. Discussion. Go ahead,
I have a
Councilor.
question, nothing to do with the budget, to be honest. How'd the virtual audit go?
Really good. A little bit anxiety inducing though, because they work very different hours from us. So they use this portal called, I'm probably gonna butcher the name, but SureLink. So I'd log into it, and there would be notifications on the side, and they would go through and review things, and I'd see notifications whether they accept documentation that I sent or they had additional questions. There was a chat window, I could drag and drop things. It's organized expenses, revenue, and then each balance sheet item, so that was really good, and I've reformatted my audit checklist for next year to make it a bit easier. And at the top, they have, it's color-coded too, so green for all of those different sections as well. Yellow is something that I've submitted or they've requested. Red is outstanding, so it's really good visually. However, they work with a team of 3 to 4, and I am one person. And so they would log on at like 7 a.m. and I would wake up to 44 notifications when I get here at 8 a.m. and not cry at my desk, but just get it done. So really, really good and something we will absolutely do next year.
Glad to hear that. Anything else from council? Not seeing anything, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Spicer?
I'll move that that unbudgeted reserve transfers as shown on attached Schedule 1 be moved to the following restricted reserves. Council, $40,000, water, $50,000, pool, $25,000, for a total of $115,000.
Thank you. Discussion?
That would actually be Schedule 2, not Schedule 1.
Yeah. Ask that question.
It's still in Schedule 1. I have it broken out, so we have like the budgeted ones and then the additions that are proposed. And then Schedule 2 is looking forward with the updated balance and then the 2026 value, so you can see how that changes what we have budgeted for 26 with the reserve.
I did have a question off of that spreadsheet, though. There was
Which one?
Schedule 1, just about the naming rights and the capital upgrades for Pembina Place. Those are added to the existing, which gives us the 221,591.
Yep. Okay, you bet.
Yeah. It was the only one I couldn't, in my head, add through to get to the proper total. And I didn't dig out my calculator. So
I could absolutely work on or find a different way to present this to.
that, it was strictly, I should have gone and got the calculator and then I would have had the answer. Rather than asking. All right. Any other questions? No? I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. 11.2. By-election. Mr. Van Buell, this has your name on it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, it certainly does. So the purpose of this is to establish the required dates and administrative authorities necessary to conduct municipal by-election in accordance with the applicable legislation. 5 motions. One is, the first motion is move that council set the election date for the 2026 by-election to fill the vacant councillor position as June 1st, 2026. The second proposed motion is move that council appoint Miranda DeWitt as returning officer for the 2026 by-election to fill the vacant councillor position. The third proposed motion is move that council appoint Ken Van Buell as substitute returning officer for the 2026 by-election to fill the vacant councillor position. Number 4 is move that council authorize returning officer to establish institutional voting in accordance with the Local Authorities Election Act. And number 5 is move that council authorize the returning officer to establish 1 or more advanced voting opportunities in accordance with the Local Authorities Election Act. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll try and make this as short as I can. As we all know, Councillor Paul Brown resigned from council on March 17th, 2026, creating a vacancy on council. In accordance with the Act, council is required to hold a by-election within 120 days of the resignation. And with that, the council must establish the election date, a nomination date, which is automatically 4 weeks, 28 days prior to the election. So that is not, that date is absolutely firm in the Local Authorities Election Act. And we need to appoint a returning officer and a substitute returning officer to administer the election process. With that, council may authorize the returning officer to establish an advanced voting, institutional voting, and special ballots to support voter accessibility and participation. With that, we're proposing the election date. As I mentioned at the committee of the whole meeting, 120 days sounds like a long time, like you've got lots of time to get everything done, and but when you start working back from that 120-day mark, you find out that 120 days from March 17th is middle of July. Creates issues with, you know, giving people a fair chance to vote on the position in the middle of summer. It's probably not ideal. So then you gotta back that up into June. When you back that up into June, do you really wanna have it on the week that taxes are coming in? But if you back it up too far, now you don't have a lot of time for people to get their voting, their nomination packages in, et cetera, and decide whether they're going to run. So you gotta kind of find that sweet spot. Our original, when Miranda and I first talked about this, our original was probably falling on June 8th, which was gave us a little bit more time. The biggest issue with that is we have some staff going on vacation. We have other things going on, not the least of which is the weekend right before that is FCM conference. And if council approves all the proposed motions, the substitute returning officer would be gone the last 4 or 5 days before the by-election, which wouldn't be ideal. So again, you throw a whole bunch of balls in the air, and we came out with June 1st as our recommendation. The options are to set an alternative election day with the legislative timelines. And again, the election date must be between May 21st, 2026. We calculated that's probably the quickest it could happen, and July 15th. So that's kind of the window that we had to put it in. And again, when you start taking some of the other things in, the window gets much smaller than that. Returning officer appointments, I think, are fairly straightforward. The returning officer that we had for the general municipal election back in October is one of the people who is on vacation. And even though on that date she won't be on vacation, she'll be getting ready to be on vacation because she's going to be gone for a bit out of the country. So just wasn't an option to appoint Ms. Tingley as either the returning officer or the substitute returning officer. So your options became Miranda and Ken. One of the things that we had a long discussion on was just advanced voting and institutional voting and special ballots. Special ballots are the ones where people aren't able to attend in person, but they are more complex and harder to deal with. So administration is not recommending that we do a special ballot, but we are asking council to authorize the returning officer to do an advanced voting and institutional voting. With it being a by-election, turnouts are generally harder to get than the general municipal election, and getting out to our institutions will allow more of our seniors to have a better access to the vote. And again, having advanced voting, with it only being one date, it is June. There's lots of things happening in the summertime. People are starting to get out to the lake, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to give some opportunities that are, outside of that June 1st. Other than that, I think that the RFD kind of explains everything. Again, there's the 5 motions, and I'd answer any questions that council might have.
Councilor Smith.
I'll move that council set election day for the 2026 by-election to fill the vacant councillor position as June 1st, 2026.
Discussion by council. I think it's pretty clear from Mr. Van Buel's explanation that the window is small. All right. Not seeing anything from council, I'll call that question. All in favor? It's carried. Councilor Cosby.
I move that council appoint Miranda DeWitt as returning officer for the 2026 by-election to fill the vacant councillor position.
Thank you. Discussion? Fairly evident why, so I'll call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Wilson?
Move that council appoint Ken Van Buell as a substitute returning officer for the 2026 by-election to fill the vacant councillor position.
Discussion. Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Spicer?
Move that council authorize the returning officer to establish institutional voting in accordance with the Local Authorities Election Act.
Thank you, and that would be our hospital and our Diamond Springs and Lodge. Okay. Discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Cosby?
I move that council authorize returning officer to establish one or more advanced voting opportunities in accordance with the Local Authorities Election Act.
Thank you. Last discussion. Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried as well. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a couple comments here.
Please.
So you'll notice in this, there was no request for additional funding to actually run the election. Again, we haven't got into that detail, how we're gonna do that. Like, do we have to hire some people to come in and help us? Again, it's a tough time to get it's a tough time of the season to take our staff off of, their duties to do that. So we may be looking to hire some local people who have done elections before just to help us out on the day of and get set up. But any request for funding will be coming forward probably early in May, so that we'll have the funds, and hence, as you saw on the.
Everything running late because of this stuff is gonna cause some trouble.
I noticed that in the RFD, and it's a crapshoot right now as to how easy it's gonna be, how difficult it's gonna be, whether we even have an election or if there's a single nomination or however it might work. Still fluid.
Once we have a better plan and how many people are running, that has an effect on it, et cetera. So once we know that, we'll be able to come up with what the final game plan is gonna be on a go-forward basis. And if there's any expenses that we can't absorb within the budget, then we'll be coming back to council, and part of that transfer to reserve we may be using in 2026.
Thank you. I believe we have 11.3 committee appointments.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, the purpose of this RFD is to make temporary committee appointments due to the recent council resignation. To make it easy, we just revised or made a proposal to revise the chart that has the committee, the committees, boards, and commissions on it. Again, with the recent resignation of Councillor Paul Brown, council has a task of providing the temporary appointments to fill the committees. What administration is proposing on this is that all the appointments be temporary until after the by-election. And then what we do is we come back and we would simply put the successful candidate in the by-election into Councillor Brown's former position. So in some cases, we actually had to appoint somebody. In some cases, what we did was we just asked the alternate to move into the appointment without appointing an alternate in that case. Again, just for ease, it's gonna put a little bit of a strain on all of council's committee commitments, so it'll be a little bit extra time for the next probably 2 to 3 months. It shouldn't be anything that is too onerous for any of the councils. So I'll just go through them. So the Joint Use Committee is probably the one that's gonna have the biggest job here in the next, because we've got about 2 months to get our joint use planning agreement done with the school division. And Councillor Brown was appointed to that Joint Use Committee. Again, that committee doesn't meet often, but there is some work coming up. So the recommendation is to have Councillor Butcher serve as the committee member until after the by-election, and Councillor Butcher was the alternate member on that committee. So The Community Services Board, Community Services Policy Committee and Infrastructure Policy Committee. Councillor Brown was appointed to both of these committees. The mayor serves as ex officio on these committees with voting privileges only if there is no quorum. Quorum for these committees is all 3 members have to be present. And so the recommendation is just for the mayor to fill these vacancies until after the by-election. So he would be able to exercise his ex officio, attend those committees, and then there's no appointments required for that. The Community Services Board, Councillor Brown was appointed to the Community Services Board. Not filling this position would mean that only one councillor would be on the board. This board has had some recent vacancies, and it requires full participation really to be effective as that board. With that, the matters discussed with this board are closely linked to the Community Services Policy Committee, and there is a desire to ensure that at least one councillor is on both of these committees, so both the Community Services Policy Committee as well as the Community Services Board. Just so that there's that continuity when things get talked about. There's somebody who's been involved in the discussions at both ends. So the recommendation is to have Councillor Smith be appointed to the Community Services Board until after the by-election. The Capital Region Northeast Water Service Commission and Fed Gas Natural Gas Portfolio. Councillor Brown was appointed as the alternate to both of these boards. And Mayor McCray and Councillor Olson are the appointments on these committees and do not require an alternate in the short term. So it is recommended to leave the alternate positions vacant until after the by-election. And again, then the incumbent can, not the incumbent, the successful candidate for councillor would just move into the alternate positions once the by-election is held. The one that we didn't deal with was the deputy mayor. The deputy mayor, the way it works, as I'm sure you're all aware, Councillor Butcher is the acting mayor. So in the absence of the deputy mayor, Councillor Butcher would just take that, would fill that position. The deputy mayor was due to be replaced or to change on July 1st. So with the budget being May 1st, the recommendation on that is just to have Councillor Butcher serve as the acting mayor. There is one issue that totally slipped my mind, and I apologize for this, and it's a financial one. As the acting mayor, there is no additional compensation for Councillor Butcher. So if council would want to appoint a deputy mayor, then there's a financial component to that. Councillor Butcher is supposed to be the next deputy mayor, so that's why it was, do we just leave Councillor Butcher, but not appointing her as deputy mayor means that there's no financial compensation because we don't have that piece. So if it was council's wish, then appoint Councillor Butcher as the deputy mayor and then decide whether we move the positions by those 3 months or whether we just appoint someone for that 3 months, and it could be Councillor Butcher, it could be somebody else. I know that's kind of convoluted on that side. I hope everybody followed that. So again, the recommendation is that council approve the committee appointments as presented. And then if council wishes, there would be a second motion to appoint either Councillor Butcher or somebody else as the deputy mayor until July 1st.
Councillor Spicer?
Move that council approve the committee appointments as presented.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for understanding the rules and saying that they were more than happy to fill in to help council get through the next couple of months and go from there. I know Councillor Smith is willing to come in on the community services side, and I know that Councillor Butcher is more than happy to help out with joint use.
Oh, yes. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Discussion by council. Not seeing anything. Question then, with respect to the deputy mayor's position. Go ahead, Councilor Walsh.
Vote on this one, make a motion for the second.
I agree. I would just like to have a discussion now so that we have some idea. But if you want to do it that way, we can. It makes no difference.
Well, because your discussion has nothing to do with the motion.
I agree. But it does have a place on the floor. But council approved the committee appointments as presented. Call that question. All in favor? Carried. Motion. Councillor Smith?
Well, to me, it makes sense that, okay, I'll make a motion that keep Councillor Butcher as acting mayor until such time as July 1st comes. To me, it'll save a lot of mixing everything up in the end.
Discussion. I just want to throw out there that whoever is elected in the by-election comes into the back end of the discussion. At the end of our term, they would be acting mayor at that time. So they would have some responsibilities attached. The idea behind our bylaw, if I'm not mistaken, is so that if I'm not here, somebody else is here, and if somebody else is here, somebody else is here, so that you're never left without some signing and stuff like that. And I'm not aware of any time where we've ever had that problem, other than I think there's a couple times when a couple of us have been at convention at the same time and somebody's left behind, so.
Yeah, and signing checks and stuff.
Yeah. So, motion that we leave things status quo until the turnover, and you said July 1st?
And she's appointed acting mayor until the end of June.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So, beginning of July, first meeting, whatever. All right. Call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Subdivision Authority appointment. Mr. Van Buell.
Some more housekeeping. Mr. Mayor, members of council, the purpose of this is to appoint the subdivision authority as per land use bylaw PD 02-2025. So the proposed motion is that council appoint Ken Van Buell, CAO, Town of Redwater, as a subdivision authority pursuant to bylaw PD 02-2025 for a term ending April 7th, 2027. So this is a bit of a, yeah, you're gonna ask why, because again, in our bylaw, this is probably maybe an amendment that we gotta make, because it says must be appointed for a term. It doesn't say up or a year, it doesn't say up to a year. So just to make everything clear, we'll move that. That doesn't stop council from making a change at any time on how we do this. It has to be appointed for a year. So at some point in time, this is probably a text amendment for our land use bylaw, just to say up to a year instead of a year. And if you're gonna ask why we didn't do it with this bylaw, be honest with you, it hit us on Thursday. The land use bylaw was done, it was put to bed, and I just didn't wanna touch the report. I went, it's done, it can wait for Thursday. Is this awkward? Yes. Is it is a deal breaker? No, it doesn't change really anything that we have to do. So, again, just with the recent departure of the Land Use Economic Development Officer, Trina Lane, it's a requirement to appoint the new subdivision authority as per the bylaw. And in relation to the Municipal Government Act. I think everything else is pretty self-sufficient. When we do get our development officer appointed, there'll have to be a development officer appointed. And at that point in time, we can leave me as the subdivision. It's, you know, it's a signing issue. The development officer can still do all the work, give me the background, and then sign it off. So, again, this is really a housekeeping matter in the end. But if there's any questions, I'll certainly answer them.
Councillor Cosby?
The council appoint Ken Manville, CAO, Town of Redwater, as the subdivision authority pursuant to bylaw PD-02-2025 for a term ending April 7th, 2027.
Thank you.
Discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Any reports from council? I think I started year end last time. Councillor Olson, Councillor Spicer, anything?
Nothing to report at this time.
Councillor Butcher, anything? to report?
AB Munis that I attended, and it was about taxation in the schools and, yeah, pretty much being told that we're broke too.
The province. Yeah.
Province is broke.
Okay. Councillor Smith?
I also attended one day of the AB Munis, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got to talk with an old friend, and that was quite enjoyable. I did pick up some stuff. The only other thing I have is they're doing interviews, I think, this week for the temporary librarian position because Alicia is going on maternity leave. And they did fairly well with buck for a day thing. The raffle, you know. That's all.
Councillor Cosby?
Nothing to report this time.
Councillor Olson?
Nothing to report.
Also, I was with at AB Munis. I'll throw it into my written report. I found it very informative. Mr. Van Buell and I had some commentary going on with respect to some of the things that were going on and who should and shouldn't get money. But Councillor Butcher is correct in that it seemed the underlying theme of everything we were told was we have a deficit and it's not healthy. So we'll follow that up. Look for a motion to accept reports. Councillor Butcher, call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Correspondence, General, AB Munis, Bill 28. Draw council's attention to this because I think this one is extremely important. Sorry? Yeah. There is an opportunity, let me get in here, for a webinar coming up. You have to pre-register for it. So if you're at all interested, there's a click on the original email to register for the webinar, and it is,
Last paragraph.
yeah, it is April, oh, hang on a second, April 2nd, they brought that in. The big thing is that there are probably 6 or 7, yeah, it's the 14th, thank you. There's 6 or 7 key items in this bill that will have a direct effect on how we work, how we look after our municipalities. And the one that has me really concerned is the standardized assessment rates. Based on what we were told at Alberta Munis, Councillor Olson, the Minister of Finance, there was conversation about a parallel system of taxation based off assessments and what have you. And his comments at the front of the room were very clear. Be very, very careful what you wish for. And so That one kind of has me a little concerned as to what the fallout might be. We're also going to see the first kick at the cat with regards to governance, council conduct, being nice at the table and talking. So we'll see some of that. So this is really, really important, and I would recommend anybody who can log in to make sure they take the time to do that.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a couple comments?
Yes, please.
So, there's a lot of talk about some of the things that have been publicly put out there around, as the mayor said, you know, assessments and, you know, the whole transparency and in salaries and those kinds of things that have been publicly put out there with Bill 28. There's a couple things in here that I'm gonna absolutely, I know I'm on vacation on the 14th, but I'm gonna try and get into this webinar, because there's a couple things in this list that we should be very wary about. The one is on page 1, reserve land for charter schools. Given our joint use planning agreement, don't be surprised if municipalities now have to provide land for charter schools. So that's basically private schools. So you're not just talking about providing land for public education anymore. And the government, the provincial government, will expect that to come out of our 10% reserve land. Or, as they've outlined, if you don't have the land in your municipal reserve, you actually have to buy the land and give it to buy the land, service it, and give it to the school board. If charter schools become part of that requirement, that's not a little change. That's a huge change for municipalities. And nobody said, when I saw this come out, nobody talked about that in Bill 28. It wasn't in any of the press releases. It wasn't in anything until we saw this email come out. And so that's one. The other one is also on the first one, this automated yes and automated technology. They've talked about it before, but it hasn't been talked about in Bill 28. I'm expecting, like right now, it's 45 days, these approval.
Yeah, roughly
Yeah.
400.
So once a development permit or building permit, any kind of permit has been put in, 45 days, if they haven't heard, it's deemed yes. I expect that number to be reduced substantially in this bill. And I mean substantially. And for some municipalities, and I don't, ours isn't in that position yet, it is gonna mean more staffing. If you're gonna turn permits around, and we've heard it at Alberta News, there's this banter, I do them in 3 days, I do them in 1 day, no, you don't. But anyway, that's a discussion for a different time. Lowering that threshold from 45 days is gonna have a major effect on how we operate within the municipal structure. The other one is also on the first page, and nobody said a word about it at Alberta Munis, and again, it showed up, and that's offsite levies. This is, I mean, I don't know who they expect to pay for servicing, but it looks like not just the provincial government, but the federal government, all their grants are pushing that they want offsite levies to go away. I don't know who's servicing land. You can't push that cost onto municipalities and then say you can't raise your taxes. Maybe there's people smarter than me have figured this out, but there's a reason why development levies keep going up, is because the cost of servicing keeps going up. And development levies are basically future costs for the development of a property. So seeing this on that list, those are the three things where I had big red flags, because they weren't talked about. They weren't talked about Alberta Munis. They weren't talked about in the press release. Nobody talked about them, and then all of a sudden they showed up on this. So,
What about this other one where the minister has control over design standards?
All the other ones they talked about in vague pieces, right? They didn't give
I-
any
I-
details.
I never heard anything about this one either, you know, where the community design codes.
Yeah.
Somebody sitting in Edmonton's gonna tell somebody what it's supposed to look like in Fort Mac or Lloydminster or
Yeah.
even Redwater.
My guess is this is tied to blanket zoning, but that's my guess.
Okay.
Right now, is that's tied to blanket zoning, and the province is not interested in anything that pushes municipalities into blanket zoning. But, Councillor Olson, it might be something different. When I saw that, that's what
Yeah.
popped into my mind, was blanket zoning.
There's a lot.
The conversation that I heard about that actually wasn't anybody official. It was two guys having a cup of coffee standing in the lobby, and none of them had what did AB Munis have, a blue name tag or whatever? These were just regular attendees. And apparently it was with respect to the safety codes, the design standards following safety codes, how that will impact. And again, you're absolutely correct, Councillor Olson. Somebody in Edmonton is gonna tell somebody somewhere what it's gonna look like and how it's gonna be built, so.
Again, I just wanted to highlight those three from my perspective for council. They just kind of appeared on the paper and I went, well, where did that come from? So,
I can honestly say that I've flagged the webinar and I've already registered because when it came out, I clicked yes. I didn't wait for my 45 days. Councillor Olson?
Through the administration there, that one with regards to the vacant property taxes, off the top of your head, would you know how hard that would hit us financially at tax time?
well, the wording's gonna be really interesting on that one because, they call it vacant properties.
Yeah.
But, and again, I'm reading between the lines here on a bunch of things. This is a municipality, this is a direct, shot, if I can use that word, and I won't use the municipality's name, but there's a municipality in Alberta who has basically gone after, taxing Airbnbs, VRBOs, short-term rental accommodations, in a different format. They basically called them what they are, quite frankly, they're called them businesses. And so they put a different mill rate on that. And this is council, the province not liking that. In the case of this municipality, it's gone through 2 court cases. It's been challenged twice. It was challenged at Court of King's Bench. The municipality won, and it was appealed, and the municipality won the appeal as well, saying that it's perfectly legal within the Municipal Government Act, yada, yada, yada. So this is the province's response to go, well, if it's within the Municipal Government Act, it won't be sued.
If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Van Buell, homeowner had to make a declaration that they lived within the four walls.
For a specific amount of time.
For a specific number of days in order to make it. So it's technically not someone who has a home that they've left to go somewhere else and they're trying to sell it or something like that, but it's
So
those
that's why the
rental
wording on
things.
this one will be really important because, province has never had a problem in the past with vacant properties. So like a house that's been vacant, and nobody's living in it, nobody's using it, it's, basically boarded up. I don't think that's the intent of this. But the devil will be in the details and how the wording, comes out.
Because we got vacant land.
Exactly.
Because I think the city of Edmonton, about 3 years ago, went after vacant derelict in the same venue and.
Residential,
Sorry?
residential, they went
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
They're
And-
now, they're going after vacant business, and commercial property now, starting this year.
And I think the whole focus behind it was to force some of the landowners to start putting some money back into the residences. And so you can understand that, but just saying, you've got a house and you don't live in it all the time, and you're gonna have to pay more for it than the guy next door to you, it doesn't seem like a fair challenge, so.
I don't know what the difference in the residential rate, but the business rate was 57%. Residential about the same?
I'd be guessing. Council.
Increases.
It's capped on the commercial.
Yeah.
I know that it's but I don't know about residential, if it's capped or not, but on commercial it was capped because the city was talking
At
about that.
57%.
Yeah, that's a max that they could raise it.
I know, well, here we put it, I think it was a minimum of 300 when we put the bylaw in years ago.
That was vacant land.
Vacant land, yeah.
Vacant developed land.
I think it's 700 now.
Yeah. Well, see, that one we don't have, I don't think. Vacant
That
developed.
would be the infill.
Yeah, but we have vacant land, and then we have like, our problem residences, not resident, buildings in town is vacant, developed
Yeah.
property,
Yeah.
right? And I don't think I'm pretty sure we don't have a separate mill rate for that. We got it for the mill rate, separate rate specifically for the vacant lands. And that was to entice the owners to build.
Okay, so interesting discussion. As I said at the very beginning, I think this is one of the most important things we've had across our desk this year. And if you have any opportunity to be part and parcel of it, please join in. And I'll look for a motion to accept general communication.
That motion, Your Worship.
Councilor Butcher, thank you. Call the question, all in favor? And thank you very much, Mr. Van Buel, for the input on that. That's great. We have 14.1, motion to move into closed session. Councilor Cosby,
Make that motion to move to closed session.
and we'll have a 5-minute recess while the electronics are switching over.
5-minute recess, what?
Wait, no,
No, but we did go all in favor.
how much is it?
No, I don't think
We didn't vote.
vote.
How many months is it?
Dave,
Mr. McRae.
Start July.
So, are we gonna have?
Mr. McRae, we have to vote.
July?
Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? Thank you.
Before we go off camera.
Yeah, I had a Counselor Smith.
Make a motion to come out of closed session?
Thank you. Call that question, council. All in favor? Oh,
Motion to
oh, hang on 1 second.
For Ken to,
We need one more yet.
One more motion.
I'll make the motion for Ken to continue negotiations with the union as discussed in closed session.
That cover everything you need? Discussion? Call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Counselor Butcher.
Motion to adjourn. I haven't done that for a long time.
All in favor? I wouldn't want to miss